All right, Tierney, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. I appreciate you taking the time. I know weather where we are right now is a little bit gross, so this is probably a decent time of year to do this. Perfect, perfect. So, as we were kind of talking a little bit before, this is the, I think, first video in a set of videos where, my goal is to establish a question I've been asking guys on mini tours or high level amateurs for years, right? So what's the difference? Fact finding mission basically for golfers out there who want to elevate their game to the next level, whether it's a sophomore who wants to play Division I golf like you do, a scratch who wants to get to plus, or someone like myself, mini tour who wants to get to that main tour. And someone can take one nugget of information from this series and propel them to the next level. So as we kind of get started here, I wanted you to just give a little bit of background on who you are, what you're doing, and kind of what's going on in your life at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm a Missouri girl, born and raised. I'm from Columbia, Missouri. I have a younger sister back home. She's 3 years younger than I am. I'm currently at Missouri State University playing Division I golf, and I'm studying business marketing, hoping to get my master's and potentially go law school route after that. I would also, if possible, love to go play on tour. I think that would be something that's amazing, and it's definitely been like a long-term goal of mine. But yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think law school as well. I didn't know that. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I took a I took a business law class this last semester, and I just loved the content, and I just really enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, maybe I could, kind of run down this route and be real
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, not to
Yeah,
get too detracted, but I have some friends who are lawyers and they like walk me through what they actually do in a day to day, and it is not. I don't know if you've ever seen Suits, but it is not like Suits.
yeah, no, it's not at all.
But well, cool. Anyway, so you're playing this year. I know I recently listened to a podcast of yours. You guys are getting prepared for your first tournament of the year. Maybe talk to me a little bit about where you guys are headed. If you've played that course, a little bit what it's like, and then what you've been doing. These last month or so, kind of leading up into it.
Yeah, so we are about to go play out in Phoenix, Arizona. I have not played this course before. There's two courses, a 36 hole, and this one's called White Wing. We played, I think, Quail Run last year. So it'll be a different course. I'm sure it's pretty similar on both sides. It's pretty wide open. It's Arizona golf. So the last couple month or this last month and a half, we really have been trying to get as much practice time outside as possible. However, we are in Missouri, and sometimes that doesn't work out. So we have indoor hitting bays and a simulator that we are able to use at Twin Oaks. So we've been doing a lot of swing work there, just kind of getting those big muscle movements and keeping myself swinging it straight. And I think short game is definitely one of the biggest things that you need to be working on, especially since you can't get outside as much. It's the thing that goes away the quickest. You have to get those touches in almost every single day. So, whether it's working on your stroke or whether it's, just trying to feel distances with chipping, those things are really important. So that's something that I've been really working on, and I think our team has been doing really well as well.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I definitely can agree that it's been tough, especially this winter. I feel like we've had
Yeah.
such bad snow and everything else, and you're hitting off the mats, and the chipping is not the same, and like it rides up the face. Like it's a disaster.
It's tough. It's winter golf is tough. And I think that that's something that was difficult for me my freshman year to kind of, because of the way that golf is set up for high school kids, they don't necessarily, for women especially, is your season is in the fall. So you kind of come off that hot streak of summer and then you go play in the fall, and then your off season is from November through April. So you don't really get to go out like play outside all that much, or you're not really working towards, like getting the point where you're like, oh, I need to be shooting this number during that time. So I think that that was something that was really eye opening for me my freshman year, is that you gotta be ready to go by the time you get back to school. And I mean, I was, because I enjoy working hard and doing anything that kind of has a competitive side to it. And yeah, I think that winter golf is tough. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, winter golf is brutal. I actually invested 2 years ago in a cart cover and a heater, and that's been a colossal game changer. I don't know if you,
Yes.
I know you guys like in college we walk, but like after college I haven't walked as much,
Yeah,
and the cart cover and heater is just like heaven. It's so much nicer.
that's so nice. I we don't really ever get to take carts ever, unfortunately.
We didn't either.
Yeah.
So you touched on high school a little bit there. I think that's probably a decent segue into one of our questions. So obviously you had success high school level, I believe second place at state, correct?
Yeah, second place at state.
So what do you feel like, you touched on it a bit in the podcast prior that I listened to, but what do you feel like were the biggest differences, either skill wise or mental wise, in terms of when you were playing at a high school level versus like playing now?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that self-belief, that's the first thing. You really have to invest a lot of time and effort into believing in yourself, because I think it's way easier said than done. And this is something that I talked about in the podcast on with Jenny. Have to believe in yourself. And if there's any sort of doubt that's creeping in, the odds are, you're going to sabotage yourself in a sense, because when you get in these stressful situations on the golf course, your true beliefs about yourself are always going to come out. And I think that that's something that not a whole lot of people talk about. It's kind of like a weird phenomenon, because when your body gets to these stressful positions, or when you are feeling pressure, your tendencies come out. So I think that that's something that's super, super definitive about the differences between high school and college. Is honestly, like, there's more on the line. You want more. You have more to lose, because you're trying to support your team. Your score kind of has to count towards your team, and your teammates are always relying on you. So I think that that's something that's really important. And you have to pay attention to the details as well. This is something that I also talked about. If you're not going back through your round, or kind of pinpointing exactly where you lost shots or where you gained shots, I think that you're really losing a lot of information that could be key to you getting better as a player.
Yeah, I'd like to actually sit on your first point for a second. I think that's a phenomenal point. I would agree that not a lot of people want to do it, because I think in general not a lot of people want to accept, at least for myself personally, it was a lot easier to work on my golf swing than it was to actually sit down and work on myself and like work on my mind. I mean, have you done a significant amount of work to sort of understand like what your tendencies are, or just even like, I don't want to say battle demons, but like quite frankly, like battle demons in terms
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, really good question. Yes, I actually work really consistently with a mental coach out of Arizona. His name's Howard Falco. Props to him. A lot of my self growth and development has really come from him. So I talked a little bit about having fear over faith, or faith over fear, I mean. And that stems directly from him. That's something that we really talk about. And I have a light here behind me, and there's a little post-it note that actually says faith over fear. And it's something that I look at almost every single morning. It's a constant reminder. And I think, having those affirmations and having something to constantly remind you and to get yourself to believe these kind of things about yourself to your core is the way that's the pathway to success and growth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that whenever it comes down to actually forcing yourself to do it, right? Like you almost have to be disciplined, because at least
Yeah.
for me in the beginning of it, like you almost don't want to believe it. Like it's as silly as it sounds, like you almost you're like, oh no, like that's not me, like that's not who I am, like that kind of a deal. And you almost have to sit down and really force yourself to like actually do it, even whenever you don't feel like it, and have that discipline side of it. So that's interesting to hear that you say that, because I can definitely relate to that. So I know you mentioned you had some weights and stuff like that this morning. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, good question. So this morning we had weights at about 8 a.m. Normally we'll have them about twice a week during season, and then 3 times a week during sorry, during off season. And what that kind of looks like is our strength coach, she does all of the workouts that she gives us. So she makes sure that they're, working certain muscle groups that she wants us to work that day. And they're very tailored to exactly what we are trying to accomplish on the golf course. And it always translates to golf. Yeah, so we do a lot of mobility and a lot of legs and core. Those are something that you use a lot in your golf swing, and a lot of lats as well, which is something that I didn't really realize before I came here at Missouri State. Yeah, yeah, you use a lot of those muscle groups whenever you're out on the golf course, and you really kind of feel it when you're playing 36 holes in a day. Your body, you don't even realize like how tired you actually are. Like I wear a whoop, and it was when I finished my first 36 hole day, I think my strain was like 20.1 or something, which is ridiculously high. And
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
wow, so we do a lot of mobility and recovery work as well, and our trainers are fantastic here at Missouri State. So it's a real privilege to have our strength coach and our trainers.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. And you talked about details a little bit earlier. Like even the details of like Jeff Lavicchio, who was on the show earlier, mentioned, are you doing the right things of do you have the food? Like on a 36 hole day, like at least for me, I have a hard time eating in tournaments and I have to like physically force feed myself to eat, but like that's like a detail that you have to do because you're like in the moment, like you have like adrenaline and it's maybe hot and like you're just going and paying attention to those little details. I think it's a really good point that you bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of always have to be prepared for everything. Like, I just know I always have like a bag with me with all of my food, and like you said, like with like eating on the course, I think that that's super important. I also find it kind of hard to do that because when you're focused in, I get tunnel vision. Like I'm so locked in to the point where I'm like you forget about the little things, but you have to remember these kind of things if you want to do well. So I think that I found some tricks for myself in order to like I normally after the first 18 like I need to have an energy drink or something and there's
Really?
yeah, I have to. I have to.
Really? So you can like that doesn't mess with your putting? Because like I've tried that and I'm like sitting here like shaking over a putt.
No, it doesn't mess with my putting. I remember out in South Carolina we actually had a 36 hole day there and I think I had maybe like two Red Bulls and I was like completely
Wow.
fine. And I was like maybe I have a problem. I don't know. But like I sometimes you just need to get to know your body and what your body can withstand. And for me, what works for me, which might not work for somebody else, drinking protein shakes while I'm out there. I'm drinking a Red Bull, eating. I eat almost the same thing every single time before I go and play golf, so just so you have that consistency there. You don't necessarily want to try something that, you've never had before, just in case, it doesn't agree with you, you know?
Yep.
There's
Yep.
there's a lot of things like that you kind of need to be thinking about. Yeah, I mean, sometimes what works for me might not work for you, but that's just the way I see it.
100%. And I think that's a lot of like whenever we're talking about, getting from high school to college or even like college to professional, one of the biggest things I've found is like it is just figuring out what works for you. Like, ultimately like the goal of this program has been to figure out like these 7 or 8 things, I talk to the best players in the world, best coaches, whatever. And it's like these 7 or 8 things are gonna make you a pro. And it's like, yes, but also no at the same time because every single person sort of has their own unique way of going about it. And
Hmm.
it was something for me that I almost didn't want to acknowledge. I was like, surely you can like systematize it and just go. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, like quite frankly, like you have to sit down and understand this is what works for me, this is what doesn't. This is what works for me, this is what doesn't. Like that's as big of a part of the improvement journey as anything.
Yeah, I mean, it even comes down to golf swing. I worked with a guy named Scott Hassey out of Franklin Bridge in Franklin, Tennessee, and something that really stuck with me from one of his seminars is that they talk a lot about core movement patterns, which is something that I never really thought about. It was, my golf swing is specifically tailored to me, so you need to be thinking about, like, if you were to try and implement swing thoughts onto somebody else who doesn't have my golf swing, it wouldn't necessarily work. So it's like, you need to be thinking about the way that your body moves. I mean, golf is so specific and so tailored. That's why you get fitted for clubs. That's why you get fitted for a putter. And honestly, that's something else that not a whole lot of people know about is you can get fitted for a putter. I didn't know about that. And now I have a lab putter and it's the best thing ever. We just talked about this before. Yeah, I mean, you need to be thinking about what works for you. Something that works for somebody else, sure, it may work for a little bit. You kind of have that little bit of placebo effect.
Always.
I mean, don't be afraid to try things. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting you bring up the movement pattern thing. A friend of mine is a pro at a club here in town called Old Warson. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. So there's a teaching pro there that actually started K-Vest. I'm not sure if you're familiar with K-Vest or not, but basically it's like for those who don't know at home, it's a vest you put on that like teaches you movement patterns, whatever else. And his whole thing is like he will put you in this K-Vest and then attach electrodes to like your like obliques or lats or whatever else, and teaches your like your neuromuscular system how to fire, which I thought was just like the craziest thing ever. Because you know, you go to so many coaches and it's like, you know, you get your wrist here and you do this and you do
Right.
that. So I just thought that was really interesting.
It is really interesting, and I think that technology has definitely progressed golf like in a way. And I think, I mean, COVID-19, it was horrible in a lot of ways, but it was really great for the game of golf. And I think a lot of people kind of understand now why this game is so addicting, and you know why we do what we do. And it's a hard game. It's a hard game, so that you really have to be dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I just think it's funny. So I had Claude Harmon on the show, who coaches Brooks Koepka, Ricky Fowler, and Dustin Johnson. His dad obviously coached Tiger. And I was like trying to get, you know, the Harmon way out of him, right? I was like what's the secret? Like, how have you coached all these great players? And he spent 45 minutes telling me that you just have to figure it out your own way. Like, legitimately, in every single possible different way. I'm like, dude, there has to be something. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, like, it's, you know, here's what I did with Ricky, here's what I did with Dustin, like, we did this, and like, you know, the thing that I found most surprising is everything that he said was related back to like Nick Saban and football, and about winning on Sunday. Like, his biggest thing was, if it doesn't help you to win on a Sunday, you know, Sunday for him, you know, for you it'll be like to win on a Tuesday. If it's not going to help you on a Tuesday, you don't do it. Which I just thought was like such an interesting insight from someone of that caliber.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line, is you need to figure out what works for you. Unfortunately, there's no formula to, play great golf. And I wish there was, because I mean, I think it would make it a lot easier, but that's
Yeah.
also the fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we can kind of get into maybe what your formula looks like to play great golf. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same for everyone, but I do think there are certain elements, like for us, certain ball speed levels, you know, you got to be good at lag putting, like there's certain things, but, you know, when you're playing well, what do you feel like is your, you know, Tyranny's formula?
Yeah. So week to week during tournaments, I'm really working on my swing, and I'm trying to find that specific swing thought each and every single time that's tangible and is repeatable. Every time I get up and I'm hitting on the range at a tournament, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's the feel for the day? What's the feel for the day? And once I find the shot that I want to hit during that round, I stick with that swing thought, and that's the thing that I'm thinking about the entire time, and it kind of takes your focus off of everything else that's going on around you. That's the one thing that you focus in on, and that's your feel for the day. And when I talk about these kind of things, it's like, I didn't realize like nobody really does that like on my team. It's real different, and I didn't realize that. But from a mental standpoint, like I try to really not get bogged down in any of the negatives that are happening. Obviously, like you're gonna hit a stray shot every once in a while. So, and I talked about this a little bit in the podcast that I did earlier, and you are essentially wasting energy when you get upset at hitting a bad shot. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's golf. It's golf. It's gonna happen. So it's really the way that you come back from that, and you kind of rebound off of that adversity. And I actually have a really good story. We were out in Diamante down in Hot Springs, and I think I was playing really good, really good. I think I was maybe 3 or 4 under through 14 holes. I get up to hole 15, spray a drive, and the way that this hole is, it's a dog leg. It's a dog leg right, but it's like super tree line. So you have like this bunker that's you can carry it, so you have to hit, and everything slopes down to the left. So you want to be on the left side, but you have to start it on the right.
Okay.
And
Do you hit a draw? Your swing looks like you hit a draw.
I do hit a draw.
Okay. Your
Yes.
swing looks like you hit a draw.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes it easy because I'm short, so I get really shallow. So it's like, yeah. But I started this drive so far right. It's OB on either side of this hole. So you got to be very specific in where you're aiming and where you want the ball to end up. It's a par 4. Spray this drive so far right. I'm sitting on pine straw. I'm in by about maybe 4 or 5 yards. So I got real lucky. But I have 5 trees in front of me. And the way that this green is, it's like kidney bean. So you have the green's like this, and the pin is all the way tucked to the left.
Of course.
I'm on the far right, and I got 5 trees. And I'm sitting there, my coach comes up to me, he goes, "What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "I'm gonna pull a 7-iron and I'm gonna hit a 40-yard hook and it's gonna end up on the green." And he was like, "Don't do that. Just punch it
Oh,
out."
don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, he was like, "No, no, you're not doing that." And I was like, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am." And both my coaches, Donna, our assistant coach, actually had to tell him like, "Let her do it. Let her do it." In order, he was like, "She's locked in. She's committed. Like this is what she's gonna do." And I mean, it was just like I said. I had about a 4-yard gap between these trees that I had to shoot it through, and I had to get this thing to hook 40 yards. And I hit a punch 7 through the gap, hooked 40 yards, ran up on the green, made par. And
Sick.
those kind of things, you need to be. Sometimes you have to get creative with the way that your ball ends up. You got to play where it lies, and that's something that maybe because of all this work that I've done on myself with being able to commit to a shot like that, I may not have been able to do that 4 or 5 years ago.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, self belief is where it's at, and I think that it's these learning experiences and being able to come back from a shot like that, and finding a way. You always got to find a way.
Yeah, I know Stevie Williams, Tiger's caddy, said in an interview one time that he thought Tiger's superpower was just his self-belief. Like,
Well,
yes,
yeah.
yes, he can do all these incredible physical things, and he swings it fast, and he's an
hmm
incredible putter, and all these things. But he was like, dude, I'm telling you, like, his superpower is his self-belief, like, flat out.
That he was never gonna let anybody tell him that he couldn't do something, and I think that that's something that everyone needs to adopt, that belief, that level of self belief.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think it just comes back to what we were talking about earlier, is actually taking the time, and
hmm
quite frankly, a lot of times it's probably going to be pretty uncomfortable to actually
Yeah.
get to that point. Like sitting down with someone and having a conversation about your fears and your doubts and why you don't believe in yourself and whatever else, like it sucks. Like it is just not fun.
It does.
But
Yeah.
it gets you to the place eventually, and like for me personally, I'm still working on it, but like it gets you to the place where like you can have that belief in yourself and it's not just fake. Like you'll see some people who have it and it's fake. Like you can kind of just like see through it and you know that it's not authentic. But if you take the time to actually go through the work, you can just tell when someone has it. So here's an interesting topic for you. In the men's game, I have a running theory that for us, bogey avoidance is almost more important than making birdies. Is it the same in the girls' game, or do you think making birdies? Because like I'm an incredible four-ball partner. Like we almost won the Missouri Floorball this year. I'll make 7 birdies and shoot even par. Like it's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, in the men's game, I almost think that we can make so many birdies that it's almost more important to make pars. Is the women's game kind of the same, or is it different?
I would say it's pretty similar in that aspect. I don't think that there's when I go out and watch men play golf, it actually stresses me out because you guys are all over the place. I mean, I went and watched the men's tournament that we hosted here at Twin Oaks, and some of the spots that I've seen some of our guys in, I was like, how did you get over there?
Well,
Like,
twin is narrow for us. Twin is
yeah,
narrow
it
for
is
us.
it is narrow. It is
Yeah.
narrow, I will say. I think that the way that women play golf, it's very different from the way that you guys play golf. For us, I would say yes for bogey avoidance, but I don't think we make nearly as many birdies as you guys do. Just because, like, for us, I feel like for me personally, I don't hit it as far as some of these other girls. I think I hit it maybe 235 off the tee. And, you get some of these courses, they actually are doing the rollback because you guys are hitting it way too far now.
Yeah.
So I think that that's definitely an advantage for y'all, but I would say yes for bogey avoidance for women, but I don't think we make nearly as many birdies.
Yeah, I find too that your guys' putting and short game is generally better than ours, at least from what I've seen, like on like college level or like high level amateur level. I'd say in general, a lot of time the women's game feels like it's more wedge and short game and putting focused. I could be wrong in that, but just like a general observation, that's kind of what I've seen as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of think about it, if you have a longer iron in on almost every single hole, because like when sometimes we're teeing off from the same tees that the men's team is at
Yeah,
Twin, whenever we're qualifying. So it's
right.
just like the difference is there, like that on 9 here, we tee off from the same tees as the guys do. And that hole,
That
I
hole's
would say
tough.
it's tough. Like that's a hard hole.
Yeah.
So normally, like I'm pulling a 3-wood there to kind of keep it short of that bunker, and then you have about 140 in. For me, that's a 7-iron, whereas for you guys, that's
We hit it
probably
over the trees, don't we? I think we hit it over the trees.
you
Yeah.
can hit it over the tree. I just choose
Yeah.
not to.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
conservative.
Conservative is better. That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I go over the trees, and that's why I make 6 bogeys and 6 birdies.
You guys are very aggressive. I think that's the number one difference between men's and women's golf is the amount of aggression and you know lines off the tee, where you want to land it, what club you have it. There's a lot of like technical differences there, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. But I think both of us can probably learn some from the other's game, and as a
Yeah,
general rule
for
of thumb.
sure. For sure.
Skills wise, in terms of yourself personally, what do you feel like you need to improve on to reach whatever the next level it is for you?
Yeah, I think for me personally right now, I would say distance. I need to hit it farther.
Gotta hit
That's
bombs.
gotta hit bombs. But um and wedging it a little bit closer every single time when you have like a pitching wedge in. Honestly, for me, my standard is I should be around 15 feet from the hole.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what
Better
it
than me.
takes. You gotta hold yourself to a higher standard, and then eventually that standard will become expectation. So it's like you need to be thinking about these things, and that kind of goes back to the details. Is for me right now, I would like to hit it a little closer to the hole because that gets me a better look at birdie, and birdies will take you far.
Yeah.
So
So, have you started any speed training yet?
I have not. I've just been doing a lot of weight training. Yeah, I mean, really just weight training. I haven't tried speed training yet.
Do
But I
you
think,
train outside of like do you do weight training outside of like your group stuff too? Yeah. Yeah. Good. I would I would just warn you to be very careful at what point in your season you do it. So like whenever I graduated college, I swung at like 105 miles an hour. I swing at like 116 now. And so I bulked up, put on speed, whatever else.
yeah.
But like my every area of my game, I started hitting it freaking everywhere. Like my golf swing got longer, I lost my arm structure. Like I always just warn people if they're trying to gain speed,
Mhm.
be very careful when you do it because if you either be very careful when you do it or just like make it a part of your routine like weightlifting is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of our guys on our team, he's a freshman this year. He just started swing training, and it definitely changes a lot. Like I think he's gained a lot of speed. However, he might now be a little bit less accurate when it comes to those kind of things because he is swinging a little harder.
And
So,
you're I don't know, are you a clock system person or you feel in term your clock
clock. Yeah.
your clock will change too. That's what like got me was like
hmm
everything was just coming out like a rocket ship and I'm like, "Oh God." Just like airmailing greens.
Yeah. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, it would make sense like behind like the strength training and stuff that goes with speed training. So,
No, I think speed is such a big part, like of the men's game especially. Like our benchmark that I don't know if you're familiar with Scott Fawcett with Decade or not, but he was on
mhm.
here with me and he gave me the benchmark of like you got to get to 180 ball speed if you want to play on tour.
Yeah.
A lot of other people I've talked to said it's a little bit lower than that, but I tell you, like the more I play with like even college golfers now, and I played with one of your teammates 2 years, or probably former teammates. I don't know if you, Eric Schussler.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, I do know Eric. Yes.
Yeah, so I played with him at the Moam at
hmm
Paynes Valley a couple years ago, and it's like even he smokes it. Like the any college person I play with now, I feel like it's just been getting like longer and longer and longer even since like whenever I was playing. It's just the speed now is just so incredibly important, and it's not going away.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So I would say, we've talked about mental, we've talked about bogey avoidance, all those sort of things. Anything you want to talk about in terms of like how you go about your actual practice structure? We've had a lot of chats with people on here in
hmm
terms of how they plan out their practice and kind of what that looks like, and then even maybe take it a step further of like how do you figure out what to actually work on?
Yeah, really good question. So most of the time, I think playing is the best way to get better at golf, hands down. If you're not getting rounds in, then the amount of practice that you're putting in is never going to matter because you can't apply it on the golf course. So what I like to do is I like to go play, and then I go back through that round. I figure out what was lacking, what I did well, so I can pull from those successes, because having those successes is equally as important as figuring out what you didn't do as well as you needed to. And most of the time, like if say I'm not hitting it close enough between 100 to 120 yards, I'm gonna hit a bunch of 100 to 120 yard shots with a specific target, and I'm trying to hit those out of you have to set a goal. You have to set a goal there. So whether it be I want to get 8 out of 10 within X amount of distance there, or you're hitting that specific distance on target line, those are things that you need to be thinking about. And whenever it comes to putting, most of the time, something that I really enjoy, like I won't say enjoy, but I think it's really, really important for people to understand that you're not going to make every single 5 footer you look at.
No,
And
we're gonna make every 5 footer we look at, 100%.
yeah, I mean, that's the theory. However, but sometimes there's little things that you miss, and sometimes you just get a bad break every once in a while. So
Hmm.
I think that if you can make a 5 footer, you can make an 8 footer, you can make a 10 footer. Obviously, the percentage goes down, but I think especially this is something that the lab putter has really taught me is you need to be committed to your line in order to determine your speed, because speed determines your line.
Yeah.
So
Are
there's
you line on the ball or you go
Mhm.
without? Yeah,
line.
me
I
too.
line it up every single
I
time.
can't putt without it at this point.
Yeah, no, I can't
Yeah.
either. I can't either. But those are some of the things that I think training for. This is something that I did with Coach Mary Swanson. She was a coach for Bradley for a long time, and then she was the women's coach for Wash U, and now she's with RSA Recruiting. But I did a whole bunch of work with her, and she had this system set up where you would train for feel, which is where you're just trying to get the feel of the shot, train for shot, which is you going through your routine. You're applying more and more pressure, and then you have training for there's one more. It's like the next level up, and then training for competition, and that's whenever you actually apply it. And you know, this is when it actually matters. So you have 4 different levels of going through your routine, and getting that preparation in. And I think that that's something that more college players should do, having more structure when they're practicing.
Yeah, I mean, I think even probably there's, maybe not professionals out there, but like I'd say a lot of high level amateurs and college players that don't do that. Like one of the
Mhm.
biggest things I've probably learned from this show, like Carl Morris talked about a lot, who was Louis Oosthuizen and Lee Westwood's mental coach. And he talked about the exact same thing that you're talking about there is in terms of preparing and practicing in a way to where it matters. And then, a lot of the pros who've been on here, played US Opens, whatever else, they all talked about learning to be a professional. And learning to be a professional is partly exactly what you're talking about in terms of I need to practice this way, this is how this is going to translate, and like having a very strong level of not autonomy, but like just control over what it is you're doing and knowing why you're doing it.
Yeah, there has to be intention, and that's something that our assistant coach talks about. That was her favorite word last year, and it still is.
Intention. Yeah.
She's like, are you being intentional? Are you being intentional? Like, what are you thinking about? It's a fantastic word, and I think that it's the truth. Like, you need to be intentional with everything that you do, whether it comes to belief or just practice or whenever you're playing around. There's got to be something that holds you accountable. You know.
Yeah. As we're kind of wrapping up here, one of the hot topics on social media right now is aim points. Are you aim point girl? Are you not aim point girl?
I do kind of like a half and half.
Okay.
I would say that I think aim point is great. I think it does work. I do think it's slow.
Yeah.
So, but the way that I do it now is I used to do like the 1, 2, 3, like the percentages with, my hand. However, now I kind of you want to get the speed of the green, because that's what we kind of just talked about. Your speed determines a line. So you need to get the speed of the green, and that's kind of the science behind aim point. You have you kind of need to know what the snip is. And I think obviously it changes from week to week whenever you're traveling, and you get to the point where sometimes it just doesn't work that week. And
Broken. It's broken this
yeah,
week.
You're like, man, I can't hold a putt right now.
Yeah.
So what I've found for me is based on the speed of the green, I pick a point. It's not always one, two, three like that. I just pick a point and I know what like the percentage is because I'm still feeling it with my feet. However, you're never gonna see me get up there and do this,
Yeah.
like anything like that. So I
Yeah.
just kind of like this feels like a ball out. This is about a cup out. This is about 1 or 2 feet out, and then you know putt it from there.
Yeah, that was one of the. So I was actually really fortunate to have one of the founders of Aimpoint on. Probably, he actually comes out this Monday, which is, we're in February right now. This episode will probably come out like middle of March. But one of the founders of Aimpoint came on, and I was like, dude, talk to me about like speed, because I just have such a hard time. And there's actually not like a full method to it. Like you're calibrating your speed based on this, and every day it's kind of going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me was like a really difficult point. Like I'm still learning aim point. I actually there's a instructor in town at Meadowbrook who actually got LPGA Coach of the Year, and she's the only aim point instructor in St. Louis. And I went to her, and it was awesome. But like that was the part that I had the hardest time with, is exactly what you're talking about. Knowing how to be able to do the speed. So I think that's the toughest point about aim point, and then it is slow.
It does. It takes a long time
Yeah.
because you're trying to like calibrate it and everything, and then you're also thinking about, wait, let me adjust my line. You have to make sure that it's like perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But every person that I've seen use Aimpoint and they know how to use it, they make everything.
Yeah, they're sick.
I mean, it's insane. I played with Audrey Wisher. I don't know if you know Audrey.
I don't think I do.
So she's from Colombia, but she used to use Aimpoint all the time.
Okay.
And she learned it from a girl down in Alabama whenever she played for the Southern Cup team that year. And Audrey came back from that tournament and was like, this girl, she was making 30 footers like they were two.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
it was the most insane thing. And then she started using it. And then I played around with her. She starts making everything. And I think that's what catapulted me and like was the catalyst for me to like be like, maybe I should give this a try. And started making everything.
Yeah.
So it definitely works. It works.
Super relatable. I actually watched Mindy Coyle. I don't know if you know Mindy or not.
Man.
Dude, I watched her whole everything at Sunset Hills
Yeah.
in the Mid-Am this year, and I was just like, all right, I'm learning aim point. And I want to say, like, no more than a month after that's when I got that lesson. Like, it was a joke how many putts she made. Like,
Yeah,
it was,
I love Mindy. She was the assistant Mizzou coach for a long time, and I've known her for a long time. She's awesome.
yeah.
And then Michelle Parrish as well.
Yep. Shout out
She's
Michelle.
also yeah. She's cool. She's real cool.
Yeah.
But she also, I think she's the one who taught Audrey aim point again.
Really?
So I think I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But Michelle does know how to use aim point,
Yeah.
I will say.
Interesting. Yeah, no, aim point is one that I'm going to be curious, because I felt like I was a pretty decent putter last year, but it also made me realize that I might be freaking blind. Like, there were a couple times that I would, like, feel it with my feet. I'd see with my eyes, I'm like, oh, this is clearly a right to left putt. I feel it with my feet, and it's like left to right, and we put the level down, and it's left to right, and I'm like, oh, God. Like, I might be blind.
Yeah, no, yeah. I've had moments like that too. Like even, especially at Hawthorne, where you're like, this looks like it's gonna break, and then you feel it, and you're like, there's no break there. What am I, like? Why am I seeing? Am I seeing something that's not there? Like you like don't really realize it, but I would say like always trust the feel because your eyes can always kind of deceive you. That's just something that I've definitely found at Hawthorne, and I think that that's definitely like that course is really really good if you're trying to get good at green reading.
Are they difficult greens?
I would say yes. They're
Okay.
very large and they're most of the time they have 3 to 4 tiers. So almost every single putt you have. I actually find that I have a lot of left to right breakers out there, whereas I don't feel like you get that a whole lot. I think almost every single putt I've had out there is left to right, left to right, left to
Okay.
right. It's really interesting. But like
Yeah.
whenever I make these like TikTok videos of me playing, I'm like, why is every single putt I have left to right?
Yeah.
You get really good at those really quick.
Yeah.
And I think that the green reading there is
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm super excited to see it. We actually have the Moam there this year, so I'm really excited to play it. I've heard such good things, and Hunter and Michelle speak very highly of it, so I'm
It's
pretty
a
excited.
great course. It's a great course. I really hope you guys like it.
Yeah, well, cool. Tierney, I appreciate the time. This has been a great chat. I don't know if you have anything that you want to say wrapping up, but that's kind of all I have in terms of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key takeaway there is really just believe in yourself. That's about it, and just be a good person at the end of the day. That's about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it. It's been a good chat.
Yeah, of course. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.